Hey, this is Christy Mattoon here from Rewire. This is a video that hopefully will spark some interest as far as another way to get into a whole brain state. And this kind of stuff I just find fascinating. It always interests me. And I've been working with a gentleman who's been really just kind of stuck in some emotions that he thought about for too long. And the thought form of it got wedged in there and created an emotion. So it's trying to unravel and get some of that stuff loosened up for him. And we're finding some pretty good movement, I believe. But he just asked me a question, and I want to throw it out here because if it'll help him, it'll probably also help you. I love it when it works that way because I think that's the way it's supposed to work. So what he asked was, what about binaural beats? Is it something I subscribe to? Is it something I would use? Is it something... So let me tell you what little bit I know about binaural beats. They are highly effective. The idea of binaural beats, what it does is create a whole brain state, right? So bilateral brain stimulation. So from left hemisphere to right hemisphere, usually, you're plugged into to earphones, earbuds. And so on one side, you'll get the noise and kind of idea, right? So EMDR uses this idea. If you know what EMDR is, desensitization, I don't know. I do know. I can't remember what it's called. Now I'm going to start this video over. No, I'm not. Eye movement desensitization rapido. I have no idea. All right. Anyway, so EMDR, look it up. It's a technique that's only taught to psychotherapists because it's very powerful. But you can use the idea, and I was actually taught this by one of my psychotherapists back in the day, bless the man's heart. He's like, if you just knew how to do this, you'd be fine. Just do this. And so tapping, listening, there's many ways to go about bilateral brain stimulation. Binaural beats would be one of those. He used to use something called bilateral beats. Bilateral beats is what he used. And you can buy CDs of this stuff, right? Or you can probably find it on YouTube. So you just sit and listen to it and breathe. Just sit. Let it go back and forth. You're syncing your brain, right? You're synchronizing the hemispheres of your brain at that point. And if you're breathing, you're calming down the vagus nerve. You're actually resetting the vagus nerve. You're calming down the autonomic nervous system. You're calming down all kinds of stuff inside your brain and down your nervous system, down your spine. So while you're listening, breathe. Here's where it can get fun. Here's where this can get interesting, because if you use the idea of a whole brain state, what you know is that all of a sudden you're putting yourself into a higher alpha brainwave. In that higher alpha brainwave, what we know, because there's been studies done, is that you're opening the door to the subconscious. Now you have availability to go in there and change things. So if I'm sitting there and I'm breathing and I'm just listening, and you'll notice, right, listening to or tapping, whichever way you're doing it, if it's the binaural beat, you're listening. So I'm sitting there listening and I'm breathing and I notice my body just calming and calming. It's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Take a breath, come back up, set that aside for a second. People who know me know that I love my little cards. So I grab a card and I write down what I'm working on. What am I working on? So let's say I'm just working on stress, like overall stress. Maybe it's to a particular situation. So what I do is I write that down. Situation. Don't laugh at my handwriting. So I've written down stress, a particular situation. So it's the idea of the stress that I keep feeling inside my body. I could get really specific. What does it feel like? Stomach clenches, heart races. What do you call it? What does it feel like? Heart races. A particular situation. I want to describe it, right? Describe the particular situation. So the stress feels like this. The particular situation is this. So I'm really clear on what it is I'm working on. And then I sit and say, well, what would I want instead? I just want freedom from the stress. I want freedom. What does freedom feel like? I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure what freedom feels like. So let's just say I don't know what freedom feels like. But here's what I'm going to start with. So I'm going to plug my earbuds back in. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to start letting my body calm down again, let it relax, and then I'm going to think about the stress. Bam. And I'm going to think about this, and I'm going to think about that while I'm breathing and I'm listening. While I'm breathing and I'm listening, I'm just going to say, okay, what does my stomach clenched feeling feel like? And I'm going to see if I can find it. I'm going to see if I can find it in this state of calm. And then I'm going to do, okay, heart racing. What does that feel like? What does it make me? I hate it when my heart races. What does that feel like? And you're not going to make your heart race. You're just looking for that feeling that comes with it. And then I'm going to sit there with that for a minute. And I would sit there with it for a minute. You know me with my timer. Oh, I'm on my phone. I was looking for my phone. Grab your phone and hit a timer. Do it for a minute. Do it for 3 minutes. Do it long enough that you start to really notice, wow, I can't find that stomach clenching feeling. Depending on how deep-seated it is, it may take a little bit longer. So just know that. Now I'm going to say, okay, particular situation. And I'm going to let it come up into my system while I'm listening. And I'm just going to notice, and it's almost like the person, the curious observer, standing back, just watching yourself. I'm going to let this particular situation come into my mind, come into my brain, and whatever thought form it comes as, and just pay attention and notice. Pay attention and notice. Until you don't notice it anymore. It can take a few minutes. And then I'm going to go, I want freedom. And I'm going to actually take my hands and I'm going to put them on top of my heart. And I am going to bring my awareness into my heart. And I'm going to say, what does freedom feel like? What does freedom feel like? And I'm going to keep breathing while I'm listening. And I'm going to notice that feeling. And then I'm going to pay super strong attention to that feeling. What does freedom feel like? It feels like a sunrise. It feels like amazing amounts of beauty around you. It feels like maybe something you've never felt before. Maybe there's an element of peace or calmness attached to it. That's what you're looking for. And then I sit there, because now what you've done, you sit there and bake in that feeling. What you've done is you've released some of the neuropeptides to the issue, right? The stress, the feelings of the stress, and then also whatever the particular situation is. You've begun a process of releasing that if you didn't fully release it. And then feel the freedom and stay with it. I would stay in there with my hands over my heart, just feeling freedom. Put your awareness in your heart. Now it's not just a brain balancing thing. It's not just a brain activity. It's not just a bilateral brain stimulation. Now we're in heart coherence. So now you're up-leveling the whole experience. I hope that helps. I hope that made sense. And if you have any questions, leave a comment or response below. I also have a heart coherent class that I have online at this point. We're still going through the end pieces of it, but you can go ahead and start it. It's open enrollment at my website under Heart Coherence and the Ladder of Awareness. And this is exactly the stuff that we're doing, just minus the bilateral beats. But you can definitely use them. And what I just now told you is how. All right, I bless you and I thank you. We'll talk to you again soon.